Hey everyone, it is the 8th of February 2021. We have just finished up a Super Bowl Sunday. For many of us, I think it's more like just a big trailer event Sunday. And the biggest one is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm sure is probably going to be the leading topic of discussion. I was very excited for it. Trailer looks great. I thought the trailer looks like a really fun time. I was looking forward to the show initially. I'm continuing to look forward to it now. Obviously, if you can tell by the thumbnail, I said this in Discord. I stand by it. It's a gag that I'm going to be running with for the duration of this show. It's basically Psych in the Marvel universe. That's how I feel. It's Psych if they were superheroes. If you don't know Psych, it was an amazing USA show. Of course, the characters is Sean and Gus. I love the show, and that's what Falcon and the Winter Soldier reminded me of, especially when they were in couples therapy and they're having the staring contest. Literally, I mean, like just ripped straight out of Psych that moment. It's perfect. I love it. Hey, ASM, welcome. Thank you for joining. So that's where the thumbnail comes from. That's where the gag comes from. I'm going to kind of milk it and run it home because it makes me laugh. And that's what it reminds me of. And I need that Psych fulfillment. Psych ended a few years ago. It's had a couple of made for TV movies. The most recent TV film, Psych 2, Lassie Come Home, was put on Peacock, which nobody's using, which, that was a mistake. But I digress. Of course, there were a whole bunch of rumors. I don't know where they came from. I've been trying to sort through. I'm gonna try to get to any active comments, of course, that pop up on the live stream. But I'm also gonna try to go through and cover my DMs and my emails. There's a lot to parse through. I'm gonna kind of wrap them up. I'm not gonna answer like each email and DM directly because a lot of them are asking the same questions. So I'm just gonna try to answer those as we kind of dive in and talk about Marvel Studios. First off is the lack of Black Widow, Eternals, or any other Marvel Studios production trailers. So let's talk about that. Let's get that out of the way because this looks to be like my most asked question, pretty much. So as it is with Disney, and again, we're talking about the overlords. We're not just talking about Marvel Studios. We're talking about the parent, Disney, so to speak. As it stands, Disney does not want to market or spend the money on releases and on marketing like release dates and on marketing films that they don't know if they're going to hit. That's the biggest thing. You're not going to see a new Black Widow trailer, a new Eternals trailer. You're not going to see trailers for, Shang-Chi. You're not going to see trailers for any of that until Disney is certain that they're not wasting money, because ads during the Super Bowl can cost $30 million. That's $30 million of marketing that's gone if it doesn't make a release date. That's just wasted money, which is exactly what they did last year, and they don't want to repeat again. I mean, that's a lot of money to waste. And there's no reason to do it. That's why Sony didn't do it. It would be foolish for Sony, again, I know it's a big studio, but by the laws of averages, it's a small it's a small studio compared to Disney. Sony does not have the money, Disney does. And Sony spending money on a Spider-Man trailer or a Venom trailer when it's just not there, it doesn't make sense because they do not know if they're going to hit these release dates. They have no idea if they're going to hit these release dates because of the ongoing crisis. They're not going to waste the money. So, again, $30 million trailer for the Super Bowl for a release date that they don't know if they're going to hit is not fiscally responsible. It's lost money if they don't hit those release dates. And as we get closer to those release dates, frankly, in my opinion, it's looking more and more likely they're not going to hit them. And they're definitely not going to be billion-dollar movies. And I want to remind everyone, Black Widow, Eternals, and Spider-Man 3 were all projected to be billion-dollar films. I know that hurts Disney, but it's like, you got to suck it up. I'm sure it hurts Sony too. It probably hurts Sony way more because they need the money. Okay, so nothing really shocked me in the Falcon Winter Soldier trailer. Nothing shocked me at all. There wasn't really a shock to it. It pretty much confirmed, it's the atmosphere that I expected it to be. It's showing a lot of the same footage that the previous trailer did. They're really saving a lot, which leads me to believe that, again, as Marvel did with Mandalorian and WandaVision, they are really keeping a lot of stuff hidden. But I did enjoy it. Yes, that city is Madripoor. What are your thoughts on Weapon X showing up in Falcon Winter Soldier? Oh, no. It's pretty much zip. Not at all. Let's see. What is your thoughts on Evan Peters replacing Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver in the MCU? I'm okay with it. I think it's a great visual gag. Obviously, he's from the Fox X-Men universe. We'll see how WandaVision goes on to explain it, how deep they dive into the multiverse, how deep they acknowledge like this is a Quicksilver from another universe. I'm looking forward to that because right now, Quicksilver is trapped in they're all trapped in this little pocket reality. So they haven't really dived into a lot of the depth on what happens when this Quicksilver wakes up. So there's still a lot of questions surrounding that I'm very, very excited for. I think we're going to get some teases this Friday because, as we know from the leaked footage that's up on the channel, clearly Quicksilver knows more, and the question is, how does he know more and why? Because we're looking at spoilers and leaks without context. Let's see. Is the U.S. agent good or bad? He's not like a good guy. He's not a bad guy though. Again, he's had some issues in the comics, so to speak. That can also be played for a gag, but he's going to do what the government tells him. That's the thing we have to remember. He is a government stooge. Again, if you're a fan of U.S. Agent, I apologize. That's what he is, though, at least in the iconic comics that I read when I was reading Marvel Comics. Like, U.S. Agent is a government stooge. I expect him to at least portray again, I expect him to be sort of an antagonist, but he's not going to be like the bad guy or anything like that. He's going to do what the government says. He's going to endorse, the Sokovia Accords. He's going to follow those rules. He's going to be that guy, and that's all he's going to be. Now, if the show adds depth to him, I'm looking forward to exploring that. I would love to see depth added to the U.S. agent, and he has depth in the comics as you go on and explore this character. It's going to be interesting what they start him off as, though. But I expect him to be a government stooge in the beginning. Now, again, we've got 6 episodes for this to develop, but, so he could go either way. He could start off as a government stooge that sides with Falcon and Winter Soldier. He could start off as a government stooge that gets warped by Baron Zemo. There's different ways they could go with this, and I'm really excited by the potential of either avenue, because I think either avenue will work and will help develop the story that they're telling. Especially since there's, we still don't how he got, why Falcon and Winter Soldier hand the shield over, or is the shield taken from them? There's context that's missing completely. Rumors of Omega Red showing up. Yeah, I'm going to put those in the wild rumor category, though, to be honest. I'm very excited. Dan the Man says, I'm curious about these next generation heroes stories coming up. I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for the Young Avengers. I'm excited to see what Falcon and Winter Soldier do. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be a large scale kind of, thriller. It's obviously going to have an international flair. The question is where does it go in that second half of the season? What isn't Marvel and Disney showing us? That's what we need to be paying attention to, which I know sounds absurd, but it's going to be interesting to see what they haven't been showing us. CRXSS says, with Fox's Quicksilver returning, Mandrapore, Zemo saying superheroes cannot be allowed to exist, and a deeper explanation of the Super Soldier program, it's hard not to get ahead of myself. Oh, I totally agree. It's very, very exciting. Will WandaVision have an end credit scene on the final episode? So everyone expects it will. Pretty much everyone expects that it will or that it does. I'm not going to credit it as a leak. I'm still going to put that in the wild rumors category, just because anytime there's a Marvel product, everybody says there's an end credit scene, right? And look at how often the end credit scenes, these wild rumors and leaks end up just being bullshit. There was an Age of Ultron one that came out in 2015. That was Spider-Man. What happened to it? That major leak? It was bullshit. Avengers Endgame, if you weren't aware, Avengers Endgame had a massive leak that said there's an end credit scene, and it's you don't see who it is, but it's a guy in a jacket, and his all you see is his left hand and claws come out. That ended up being bullshit. So we have to be careful with all these, post-credit scene rumors and leaks, because a lot of times it's people throwing shit at the fan for clickbait. Hey, Ford. So Radioactive says, how deep and mature with the themes in Falcon and Winter Soldier do you expect Marvel Studios to go? I expect it to be deep. And again, I'm not creating that expectation. The showrunner has kind of created that expectation for me, so I hope it follows suit. But the showrunner, again, one-to-one, directly in the interview, said that the show's going to explore themes of community, responsibility, and racism. I'm very excited for that, because those are all themes that that these characters explored in the comics, especially Falcon. I mean, there's really interesting adaptations that they can go with the route of exploring race, community, whether they want to explore a black man taking up the shield and being Captain America, the black man having the shield taken from him, the response of racists. Again, you could even parallel the really negative response of when Falcon became Captain America in the comics. There's great stories there that I'm really, really excited for, that I would love to see them explore, that I think is important to explore because the comics did. And if the comics can do it, why can't the shows? And I want to see those themes. So yeah, I do expect it to explore those themes because I got told they were going to explore those themes. All right, so let's see. Hey, Liz edits. Will Falcon and Winter Soldier be a limited series? Yes, it is actually listed as a limited series. 6 episodes that are about an hour long each, give or take. There's some rumors out there about the variables of how long each episode is, but we're looking at closer to an hour. So by the time Falcon and Winter Soldier is over, it's going to be 6 hours of content. But it is listed as a limited series. So imagine more. Like, you could think about it as almost, if you break it up and parse it up, it's like we're getting 3 films split over 6 episodes. Because, you could take the first 2-hour chunk, second 2-hour chunk, and the third 2-hour chunk, and imagine that it's a trilogy of films almost. And it has a really major budget to support that as well. It has a movie. It has a really, really high level budget. Any news on the Hawkeye series? Yes and no. There's been little stuff that came out here and there. Nothing major or significant. It is filming. It was filming in Atlanta on Friday. There were some set pics going around, but there's nothing significant. Like, nothing's been spotted, so to speak. I mean, there's been no major spotting. They've actually kept a tight lid on Hawkeye, which surprises me. Hawkeye has a really tight lid on it. And I got to give them credit, though. It has a tight lid on it, which is really hard in this day and age, because I mean we pretty much have had WandaVision just explode with leaks. We've had Spider-Man 3 explode with leaks, but Falcon and Winter Soldier is staying really quiet, and Hawkeye is staying really quiet too. So I got to respect that. Okay, Dan the Man says, I think Bucky might go the path of keeping the Thunderbolts in line with Zemo, while Sam handles leadership over the Avengers. And John might be the new Nomad. All that's very interesting. I hope Sam actually does officially take up the mantle of Captain America by the time this show ends. Obviously, Sam says, I'm sorry, the actor, Anthony Mackie, I called him Sam. Anthony Mackie has been very coy, playing with the idea of, like, we never said he was Captain America in Endgame. You don't know what's going to happen at the end of this show. Of course, that doesn't directly correlate. We have had several leaks. Okay, one leak had Sam Wilson in his Captain America costume, and then there was actually a toy leak that has Sam Wilson from the MCU in his Captain America costume. So I'm going to chalk that up and say pretty much, like, unless these toys are not, the concept art and toys are not based on events in the show, which again is a possibility. We can make that argument. We can play devil's advocate there. But I'm going to go off the idea that, yeah, these are probably based on events in the show. He's going to be Captain America by the end of it, which I'm excited for. Now, as for leading the Avengers, I don't know. Because this show, Falcon and Winter Soldier was filmed before the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And I know for a fact, and I wonder, like, will it dovetail? Will they acknowledge that at all? But I mean, I know for a fact that Black Panther was going to be the leader of the Avengers. That was going to be his next evolution. And so how this fits in with Sam Wilson becoming Captain America and what role he plays, that's all, I'm very excited for the future, but I'm also kind of bummed now. It's that weird give and take where it's like, I was really excited to see Black Panther take up leadership in the Avengers with Captain Marvel, of course, because both of them were supposed to be like the main. They were going to be the figureheads. Now, Captain Marvel will still be a figurehead, and she will probably end up being more of a figurehead now with Chadwick Boseman passing. But I'm always going to miss what we didn't get, and I know, like, it's. There's no way for Marvel to, they're in a tough situation, and obviously there's no blame. I'm not saying anything like that, absolutely, but it's just it sucks. It sucks that we're not going to get that story of seeing Black Panther leading the Avengers, because that would have been awesome to see on screen. That's one of the biggest reasons why, even if it's from a multiverse or from some other universe, that they get that they find a way to get a T'Challa into the films, because I I still want to see it. I still want to see that on film. I really do. And he led in the comics too, Black Panther. I love Zemo's costume. I really do. I mean, I really think it looks awesome. I love the mask. I'm so happy we finally have the mask. It's so great to see that evolution. So I love it. I'm really cool. I think they did a brilliant job modernizing it. I think it works very well for this cinematic setting. I really like it. I think we're getting I 100% believe we're getting the Young Avengers. All that's left is young Loki as a character, and I'll be shocked if we don't see young Loki in the Loki series. But I figure that shoe is going to drop very soon, and we're going to have the Young Avengers complete. Not so much the Champions, and that's primarily because the Champions as a team, like, that name isn't marketable. Like, Marvel's Champions, I don't think will sell as well as, having Marvel's Avengers. I don't even know, the next time we see Avengers, it might be the Young Avengers crew, but the film might just be called Avengers. That's what I would expect. I don't expect Young to be, planted in front of Avengers. They're going to keep that Avengers IP because it's really, really strong. It makes sense to. It makes the most money. They're not going to, they don't want to oversaturate the Avengers brand, right? So you're not going to see Young Avengers and Avenger films running, because that will oversaturate the market. I can't think of a marketing team that would do that. It seems very illogical to do that, cinematically speaking. So if anything, we'll get an Avengers film with a subtitle, and that will introduce the Young Avengers from the comics that we know. What else we got? Anthony Mackie not sell as well as Chris Evans. Is that what you mean, My World? Or that Anthony Mackie might not want to be around for it for long. I think Anthony Mackie's pretty much in it for the long haul. And people love Anthony Mackie. The trending on social media is huge. Falcon and Winter Soldier is trending significantly higher than Civil War was, and I think that says a lot if you want to try to compare apples to apples, so to speak. I mean, kind of a bit of an ensemble cast, a bigger superhero deal. So the response is there, the positive response is there, and the social media response is there as well. And plus, people love this duo. So I think it has potential to be a massive success and sell very well. And I think, Sam Wilson taking on the mantle of Captain America is going to be a huge seller, especially with marketing. Malik wishes that Baron Zemo had the gold headpiece. I respect that, but I'm still happy with what we got. I'm very happy with what we got. In a way, we are getting what we didn't get with Tom Cruise as Iron Man or Tobey Spider-Man coming into the MCU. Oh yeah, I think I get what you're saying, Dan. Yeah, it's very exciting because getting to explore the multiverse gives a lot of opportunities. Depends on which champion, says Dan. The one with Hercules or Kamala Khan. If they do it right, champions with Nova, Miles, and Kamala could work. I mean, I 100% believe that you could have a film with those three. I feel like we gotta, and maybe Marvel would do Champions. Maybe they would. Maybe they would do Champions. But I just don't see why you don't put them in an Avengers film. I think it very easily writes itself. I mean, to me, it just makes sense. Kamala's already getting introduced. We're still waiting on Nova, but we know the concept art for Sam Alexander and Richard Rider exists. Miles Morales, I really believe, is coming very, very soon to live action. So we're going to have that entire team, but I just don't see why you put them off into a pocket. Like, make them Avengers. Like, put them in the next big Avengers film. That's what I say. You just have to be careful, because it's all a matter of saturation, especially with marketing teams. It'd be cool if we got a blue Marvel, but I doubt it. It would be awesome, but I don't doubt anything anymore. I mean, we're getting Uatao, of course, in Marvel What If, but it doesn't matter. He's there. He exists. We're getting him. We got Rocket and Groot and characters that I don't think the average person or the average comic book fan ever thought we would see. Do you think the MCU later on would adapt Avengers versus X-Men? I mean, to a degree, yes. But again, it'd be an adaptation like Civil War was, and that's what worries me. Like, I don't think you can ever do that, what the comics did. And I also think you have to be very careful as well because the cinematic universe is different. It's not the same. And that's why I'm really excited. How they choose to explain mutants in the MCU is going to really determine how I feel about Avengers versus X-Men, how the likelihood I see of it. Because it all hinges on two things. How are they going to position the X-Men in the MCU? How are they going to position and explain mutants in the MCU? And are they going to treat mutants? Are they going to still deal with the metaphor of being outcasts and being, being treated like the, pariahs in society, being treated like outsiders? Or are they going to treat them like superheroes? Like, there's so many things where it's like Avengers versus X-Men will be very different depending on how they answer and explain those three things. Because in the comics, mutants are always treated, the metaphor is always there. They're always treated with phobias. They're always treated with disgust. Will they do that in the films? Obviously, I hope they do. I want it to be an authentic X-Men film, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be fascinating to me. And answering those questions will determine what an Avengers versus X-Men would look like. Because, for one, it's already going to be significantly different because it's not going to be a one-to-one to the comics. Government versus superheroes is coming back, and I'm really excited for that. And I feel like that's, at least in my opinion, that's like that little breadcrumb trail to, for conflict with mutants, conflict with X-Men. Because for one, superheroes versus government for me is a great theme. Whether it's, you've got Watchmen, you've got Justice League, and you've got Avengers, but superheroes standing up against government and saying, we're not going to do what the bureaucrats say, we're going to do what's right. We're going to help the people that need helping. Those are great themes. Those are great stories. And that's what superheroes are supposed to be. That they're the modern myth. And that's what you want to explore. You want to see the superheroes going after corrupt government, corrupt people in the government. What are some of your theories on how they're going to bring in the mutants? Well, the first one's, and I've discussed this ad nauseum, really. So if you've been here before, you've heard me kind of go on about it. The first one is the easiest one, right? Which is, mutants have always existed. They've existed pretty much in secret, and Xavier, it will just now be forming his first class in his school, which will introduce us to the OG first class, which is Cyclops, Iceman, Angel, Beast, and new recruit Jean Grey, Miss Marvel. Which again, I'm sure, she's not going to be called that anymore. Or Marvel Girl, I'm sorry. What am I doing? She's not going to be called that anymore. But the thing is, what's really important when we talk about the mutants is Magneto, okay? Magneto and Wolverine, by an extent. Magneto has, in my opinion, now again, people can disagree, but in my opinion, Magneto has to be tied into Nazi concentration camps. That has to be his history. That's all there is to it. Unless they explain away time travel or some kind of de-aging, that will put Magneto in the MCU timeline of 2025. He'll be, depending on where they wrap the age around, 100 or older. So they're going to have to explain that away. We're getting so far away from that period that Magneto was originally created in, from the concentration camps. We're getting so far away that his age is now a factor. And they have to explain that somehow. But he needs to be a part of it. He just does. That needs to be a part of his origins. They cannot cut that out. They cannot get rid of it. I feel very strongly about that. Magneto has to be a survivor of a Nazi concentration camp. He has to be. I will not accept anything different. I don't care what comic book magic you use to explain it away, to make him not over 100, or hell, make him over 100, explain it however you want. But he has to come from that. Period. That's it. That's it for me. And then you could just say, mutants have existed. They've existed in secret. Nobody's known or paid attention. Wanda and Pietro were mutants. Their powers, their X gene was activated by experimentation, but they were mutants. They're the secret children of Magneto. Bada bing, bada boom. You've got easy explanations for all of that. Same goes with Wolverine. Wolverine, he's been around, you can say he's been around since the 1700s, however far back you want to go with Wolverine's history. Again, he has this healing factor. Bam, you've explained it away. And they've existed in secret, but they've never grouped together. And X-Men, the first X-Men film in the MCU, will be the first time that Xavier opens and has his first class. Hey, YouTube member Josh, and welcome, Darian. So that's the first one. The second one is one that happens a lot, which is all this cosmic radiation explosions. And this is something that Josh attested to in a previous live stream, actually, where he, sort of what Wanda's doing with the multiverse and this cosmic radiation, all of this will lead to an explosion that will create the X gene, which I respect as well. But it's another very simple explanation. I do not believe Scarlet will be a part of the Brotherhood. I don't, because we got to remember the comics as well. She was always an Avenger first. She was an Avenger first in the comics. That's really her history. So I believe that they're going to follow through with that. And I think, if anything, Wanda's going to have a difficult relationship with her father if they go down that route. She's going to be very conflicted. And I'm looking forward to seeing that explored. If it is explored, I want it to be explored. You know what I mean? But I 100%, I do believe, like, if you introduce, when you introduce the mutants and when you introduce Magneto, yeah, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have to find out, whether it's a major retcon or however you want to explain it away. Oh, those weren't my birth parents. Here's my birth father. That story has to be told. And again, it can be a very powerful Darth Vader moment as well. Dan the Man says, how do you think Charlie Cox, MCU Daredevil, and Spider-Man 3 and beyond will differ from his Netflix appearance? I always get juvenile about him. I always got a juvenile sense about him when he was in Netflix. Maybe he'll play him older. Okay, I got you. That's interesting. I think, obviously we're going to get classic Daredevil eventually. And obviously, I'm sure we'll get a really awesome costume. Kevin Feige's always been really authentic. As for Spider-Man 3, now, again, whenever we have this, and I have this in emails as well, I talk a lot about confirmation bias and about reading between the lines. So I was one of the first to report that Charlie Cox was spotted on set in Atlanta. Of course, the word that was told to people on set is that he was visiting the set. That doesn't make sense to me. I think it's too coincidental that Charlie Cox is visiting the set. I've heard pretty reliably that he did have a costume fitting while he was in Atlanta. Not a Daredevil costume, just a standard costume, which again, a traditional lawyer outfit, lawyer costuming. I very much so believe that Charlie Cox did not just visit the set of Spider-Man 3, did not just have a talk with Kevin Feige. I very much so believe that Charlie Cox filmed a scene in Spider-Man 3, that he filmed something very small, that it is a small appearance. I do not believe it is a significant appearance, but I do believe he filmed something for Spider-Man 3, and that Charlie Cox will appear in it, and that he will appear as Matt Murdock, maybe not Daredevil yet, but that's my confirmation bias. That's me hearing information and going, why would he just be visiting the set? So I just want to make that clear. That's how I feel about that. As for where he goes beyond that, I hope they do a mature take. There's bits and pieces about Netflix's Daredevil that I like. There's a lot I don't like. I think it had too many episodes. I think it went a little too far in some places. I think it completely mishandled the Hand, and I love the Hand. But what it did get right was Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. I'm probably saying his last name wrong. Either way, it got Daredevil and Kingpin right, and I'm looking forward to seeing them adapted to the cinema, to the MCU. And I do believe that shoe is going to drop eventually. I wouldn't want them to change him too much because, for me, I want him to be accurate to the comics. And honestly, Charlie Cox's portrayal was very accurate to the comics, so I would like to keep that authenticity. Matt Murdock's always been kind of playful, and he's always been a little juvenile, and that's from the comics, and I would like that to stick. Let's see. Malik says, what if they change mutants entirely and make it so they all age slower? That's interesting, and it would, again, be a very simple explanation. CRXSS says that, I saw a theory saying Hydra could have kept Magneto in a sort of stasis for experimentation after discovering his powers in Nazi Germany. That's fair. That's good. They could have put him on ice, and that could have led to their experimentation with Wanda and Pietro. I would accept that. That is an acceptable, 100% acceptable reason to keep him from being out of age or over 100 if they don't want to go down that route. I would accept it 100%. Isn't Eternals going to set up the X gene within the MCU? That's not been confirmed. There's rumors, and what I put into the wild rumors, but there's nothing that I've seen from a reliable individual. I've not seen any information that says, "Oh, hey, we're getting X gene name dropped," or "We're getting a reference to the X gene." I've not seen anything like that. Um, Shirk says, I love how close we are to Spider-Man 3 and finally seeing all three Spider-Man on the same screen. That's right, December 17th, if it doesn't get delayed, delayed again. But we're pretty close. We are pretty close. Josh Doyle says, could work with the fact that WandaVision is set in New Jersey, where they could have taken over the SHIELD base from Endgame in New Jersey, and then Magneto could break out and appear in WandaVision. Talking about the Hydra Magneto theory, by the way. Absolutely, Josh. Yes, I very much so. I do agree. I am very. It could absolutely work. Now, I don't know if we're going. I don't believe we'll see the MCU Magneto in WandaVision. I think if anything, if a Magneto does make an appearance, it's going to be a Magneto from the multiverse. Now, whether or not we get teases to something larger that's going to in a WandaVision, that's going to be very exciting. But I am very. There's so much potential for the mutants because it's so easy. I mean, there's so many ways they can introduce the mutants. It's going to be a really easy, very simple explanation. Okay, so let's see. Dan the Man says, will Wonder Man and Grim Reaper play a role in WandaVision? I don't know. I don't know because I don't know if the Wonder Man is a massive misdirect. So far, the leaks that I have, which is up through. I have an entire description for the episode airing this Friday, and I have an entire description for the episode airing next Friday. We're almost done, and there's no mention of Wonder Man or Grim Reaper, and so I'm starting to push that back a little bit. Maybe Grim Reaper, maybe, but if they introduce both of those, if they introduce both of these characters, it might just be Simon Williams. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be fully fledged like that, because so far there's just no evidence of it, and we're so close to the end. They're moving too fast. Ben says they're moving too fast with Spider-Man. I mean, I guess it's to each their own. I'm okay with it. I think it can be handled very well, and I think they'll do a good job. Malik says it's going to be hard to see someone else's Wolverine. That's fair. That's totally fair. For me, I don't feel that way. I think the Foxmen are the Foxmen, and I'm okay with that. But now I'm ready for the MCU X-Men. I'm ready for the MCU version of these characters. I'm ready for the MCU version of Magneto. I'm ready for the MCU's Wolverine. I'm ready to accept the version that they give me, and I'm willing to give it a chance, pretty much, because there's a lot about the Foxmen that weren't definitive, and so I'm willing. I have a very open mind. ASM says, what do you think about this Hayward guy in WandaVision? His whole vibe is off. I do agree. I 100% believe he is, a villain, but I think he might just end up being a government asshole. Again, we're getting so close to the end. We're kind of running out of time on major reveals that they could give us, unless the last few episodes are really, really long episodes. That's possible, and I've heard rumors, but I'm putting that in the rumor bowl. I've heard the last episode is long. We'll see how things pan out, but we're cutting it really close to the wire to have easy explanations and introductions to multiple characters and a plot twist with Hayward. So we'll see. Having no origin story deprives me of my love for 616 Spider-Man. Oh well, I do respect Feige going, how many times do you need to see him get bit by a spider? Do you think Kang will pluck Hank and Janet from the past into the present? I've discussed this before. Everyone knows how I feel about it. I would love that. I want to see Henry Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne as Ant-Man and Wasp leading the Avengers. That's what I want, and I will accept nothing less, so to speak. I really, really want that. And people who follow, I'm a huge fan of Marvel power couples. My favorite characters are, Wanda and Vision and Henry Pym and Janet, Ant-Man and Wasp. Those are some of my favorite characters. I love them. I want to see them done justice. I want to see them on the Avengers. It's why I feel so passionately about WandaVision. They've done a great job, but now I'm really ready to see Ant-Man and Wasp. The original Ant-Man and Wasp suit up, become Avengers, and do battle. I really want to see that. Even if it's Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer. I love both of those actors. They're incredible actors. 100% they're incredible actors. But you got to give me those original Avengers. Liz. Hello, Liz. Liz says, who would be your dream casting for MCU Wolverine? Taron Egerton. I've said that before. I think I said that in a pre-show. So this might be like old news to Liz and Josh, but in one of our pre-shows, I kind of talked about fan casting, and yeah, I would have Taron Egerton play Wolverine. Absolutely. Black Panther is not going to be CGI. They're not CGIing Chadwick Boseman 100%. That's done. I can say that absolutely. How do you feel about Cameron Douglas playing Hank and Haley Lovett playing Janet? I mean, I guess I'm okay with that. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to think about it. I would really have to think about it. ASM says, I wouldn't really say it's not possible. They have said the episodes will be longer, but I understand that it's unreasonable to think they'll just introduce giant plot twists at the end of the show. Yeah, because we also have to remember, we're still dealing with Wanda. We're still dealing with who else, who's involved in, what's the entity involved with what Wanda's doing. We're still dealing with Agnes. There's a lot of spinning plates here. And so I just want to keep my expectations in check. And so we have episode 6 and we have episode 7, and we know exactly what happens in those episodes, which only leaves 8 and 9. And so, like, any kind of major twist, they're going to be cutting it really close into those last 2 episodes. CRXSS says, what if Henry Pym makes a cameo to repair Vision and he becomes White Vision? I would love that. I would love that so much. That would be so trippy awesome for me. I would love to see that. Darian says that his fan cast for Wolverine would be Milo Gibson. I don't really. Hang on. I got to search him up because I'm not certain. Hey, I don't really know what he looks like. Yeah. I respect that. There's nothing wrong with that, though. Again, everybody has their fan cast. I will continue to stand by my Taron Egerton. And then Ant-Man and Wasp should have been in Phase 1. They should have, and it should have been the originals. It's such a shame because, I know people love Edgar Wright, and obviously the Ant-Man we got was very much so based off Edgar Wright's concept, which was all the way back from 2008 when the MCU was still very much so in its infancy. But I wish Kevin Feige would have been able to step away from that concept and reevaluate Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because if Edgar Wright wasn't going to be involved anyway, I just would have loved to seen a different adaptation. Honestly, I really would have. Let's see. If Doctor Strange doesn't put Wanda down after all... Oh, no, Doctor Strange isn't going to put Wanda down. Doctor Strange isn't powerful enough to. I mean, let's be honest. Wanda's more powerful than Strange. So, he, if anything, he'll help her control her powers, but he can't stop her. That's the thing. Nobody can stop Wanda. ASM says, oh my god, yeah, what if this Skywalker level cameo, again, something we talked about in the Discord, said by Elizabeth Olsen, is Michael Douglas's Hank Pym, and he could easily tie him with something to do with Vision. What do you think? Absolutely. I keep thinking about the Skywalker level cameo, and obviously we have to acknowledge it could be very hyperbolic. She could be talking about Doctor Strange. We know for a fact Doctor Strange is in this show, and that Doctor Strange does have an appearance in this show. She could think people don't know that, and that's a Skywalker level cameo. And for the average consumer who doesn't know about the leaks and what we've been discussing, maybe it is a Skywalker level cameo. It's not to me. For me, I really, really believe, just looking at what Marvel can do and what is a Skywalker level cameo, I would put Michael Douglas's Hank Pym as a Skywalker level cameo. That would be awesome. I would also put Ian McKellen, though. And again, that's me. I'm very excited about that potential. But yeah, Hank Pym coming in, repairing Vision, I would love it. I absolutely would. I would love that. And again, I mean, by all technicality, it's likely. With what's going on with Wanda and Strange and Vision, it's very, very likely. It is not Tony Stark. It is not Tony Stark. Yeah, it's not Robert Downey. What is the strongest version of Doctor Strange? I would say the classic Marvel Comics version. I mean, that's how I feel. I would say that. Do you imagine the MCU version of Cyclops would essentially be the next Captain America in terms of presence development? Yes. Yes, absolutely. He has the strength of character to do that. He 100% has the strength of character to do that. Cyclops is a great character. He can be a focal point moving forward in the MCU, and I very much so believe that Cyclops will sort of become the next iteration of Captain America, so to speak. Like, obviously not directly, he's not going to be Captain America, but Scott Summers can be that type of character. One of which is an 8-ball. Yes, CRX, I saw that as well. Could Marvel Studios introduce the Immortal Hulk from the comic books in the MCU if they want to use that version of character? Technically, they could, but I don't really think we're to an era for the Immortal Hulk. I mean, we still really haven't got a deep dive into Smart Hulk, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Mark Ruffalo in the future. We know Mark Ruffalo is going to be in the She-Hulk series. I don't think we're there for the Immortal Hulk yet. Oh, as a teacher, yes. I could see Wanda being a teacher at a Mystic Art School, but I would rather see Wanda as a teacher at the Xavier Institute. I would love to see, a man in a wheelchair roll up and recruit her or something like that. I mean, I don't care how they do it, but I would love that too. Now we know I really 100% doubt we're getting any kind of Professor X cameo. I mean, down the road, but I would love to see that. I would rather see Scarlet with the X-Men. Malik says, I'm going to think you mean Nightcrawler. Malik says Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men, and I hope they do him justice. I agree. He's one of my favorites as well. I mean, take your pick with the X-Men. I love so many of those characters. I really do. Like, I've said this before, and I stand by it. X-Men is what got me into the Marvel comics. X-Men is 100%. Like, it's X-Men and Spider-Man got me into reading Marvel comics, and I love the X-Men. Like, Uncanny X-Men is still probably one of my all-time favorite comic book runs. I love Uncanny X-Men. I love what Chris Claremont did. I love what Jim Lee did in the early 90s, late 80s. I love their work, and I love the X-Men. And 100%, I mean, you could take your pick. Yes, I really want to see those characters done justice. I really want to see the MCU version of these characters. And there are so many characters. Some of them need a Disney Plus series. I mean, you can't just have one X-Men film every 2 years to deal with all of these characters. You're going to need to expand this property. I would love to see a Disney Plus series set at the school. The X-Men films can deal with the big stuff, but I would love to see an X-Men series set at the school. Very much so Harry Potter vibes. I think it would be massively successful. I really strongly believe it'd be massively successful, but you take the kind of concept of Harry Potter, you apply it to the Xavier Institute, you apply it to Disney Plus, and you can have a series with several seasons exploring this school, exploring smaller scale stories, more intimate stories. Let's see. Caleb says that his favorite underrated characters are Gambit and Jubilee. I love them too. Again, I mean, it really is a matter of take your pick. The X-Men have an amazing roster of characters, thousands of characters that I desperately need/want to see. I would love to see a miniseries with Gambit, the origin of his powers. Radioactive says, do you think a Spider-Man and his Amazing Friends Disney Plus series would be possible? Oh, yeah, I do. ASM says, wait, you know how episode 6... Yeah, ASM, we had a WandaVision leak show. We went over episode 6 there. I have yet to go over episode 7. In the Discord, we did a pre-show chat with YouTube members. I did go over my news with YouTube members, but that's going to be something we're talking about. We're going to be talking about episode 7 of WandaVision. Is there currently a release date for the Eternals? The current release date for the Eternals is November this year. It's still they just pushed it back. Like Black Widow got pushed back from May to May, and Eternals got pushed back from November to November 2021. So it's still coming out. Well, I mean, obviously it's going to come out. It's scheduled still for November 2021. Dan the Man says maybe the cameo is Magneto saving his daughter. See, I would love that. I mean, I'm of two minds about it just because, we have... Magneto is a very significant character, right? Magneto is a very significant character. I'm not going to paint that small in any way. would the MCU Magneto appear in in a Disney Plus show first, or would a Magneto from a different universe, so to speak, appear? That's that's where I kind of have that debate of like I think it's very possible we could see a Magneto like cameo, but it's a question of what will what it will mean for the future. You know, if it's Ian McKellen, if it's a little cameo like that, does he make her aware of it? Is what I mean to say. Uh, let's see. Caleb says, I'd honestly love to have an X-Men Disney Plus series with at least 2 or 3 movie tie-ins. Absolutely. Do you think Captain Marvel 2 or 3 can introduce Rogue? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I mean, because see, that's the thing. Like, we have to pay very close attention to Kevin Feige's wording, okay? I mean, like, let's roll the clock back to when he got mutants. He said we were going to see mutants soon. Like, not necessarily X-Men and not necessarily in their own property, but if we, and again, I'm reading between the lines. I'm probably doing a little bit of confirmation bias, I admit, but these characters don't have to appear in X-Men to be mutants and to have their first appearance. Rogue could appear in Captain Marvel. She could have a small cameo or a teaser at the end credits, a post-credit scene with this girl getting her powers from Captain Marvel. They could do that. They could go down that route very easily. Wolverine, he could be in a Hulk film. He could appear anywhere. Wolverine could appear anywhere without having to be tied into a Wolverine film or an X-Men film. The same goes for Magneto. The same goes for Professor Xavier or any members of the First Class. The question is how Kevin Feige is going to approach the First Class of mutants from the comics, the original First Class, how he's going to approach those versus how he's going to very quickly expand the X-Men universe. Because let's be honest, the X-Men are big. They are a massive group with a massive roster of characters that you can tell with multiple films or Disney Plus series. Just like Darian says, could Gambit get a Disney Plus show? Yes, of course he could. Like, Gambit had his own comic, has his own comic for a very long time, and it was very successful. None of these characters can be written off anymore. Not when we've had characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy, when we've had, I mean, for God's sake, you could roll the clock back and say, how is Iron Man going to get his own movie? And he did. And he kickstarted this whole thing. We're at a point in pop culture where any of these characters can survive. We could have a 4-episode limited series devoted to Gambit. We could have a 6 to 10 episode season of the Xavier School, right? And it could be 10 episodes at 30 minutes each. It could be 6 to 9 episodes at 40 to an hour minute each, right? You could go anywhere with these properties. You could 100% go anywhere with these properties, and that's really, really exciting for me. Dan the Man says House of M is the way to go for introducing the mutants. I mean, I still agree to, like, obviously House of M is very different. House of M is a very different scenario, what it is in the comics to what we'll get in the show, because it's going to be smaller. Let's put it that way, right? Like, it's not going to be it's not going to be what we know the House of M in the comics to be, right? But I still believe, like, oh, Caleb says we could have random mutant cameos in different movies or shows that eventually lead to the movies. Exactly, which that's exactly what I've been describing, and that's my point. Josh says it would be funny if she just says at the end of the show more mutants to flip it and just bring mutants in. That actually would. I was trying to process it, but yeah, Josh pretty much just put words to what I was trying to process in my head. That would be a great pair. I have to give that credit. If she comes to terms with realizing she's a mutant, I just, that would be cool. With her having this moment of saying more mutant, that 100% would love that. I would love that. I, at 100% would love that. It would be a great play on the event. It'd be a great play on a classic comic book storyline. I would love it. Oh, House of X with Krakoa. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, and I do agree. I think Jonathan Hickman's done a lot of interesting stuff with the X-Men lately. I have a lot of respect for his work. I loved his run on Fantastic Four. I liked his run on Avengers. I preferred Fantastic Four, but I think Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men is going to go down probably as very iconic because he's breathing new life into the X-Men, especially after Ike Perlmutter banned the X-Men and pretty much wiped them off the face of the comic book earth. So, yes, 100%. I think that's a good avenue to eventually go down, but I still hope we start with the original five and we expand from there. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of potential for a very strong ensemble cast with the X-Men, and I think there's potential to expand it wildly and into Disney Plus. And I think Disney and Marvel will be crazy stupid if they don't take advantage of Disney Plus and put and have a X-Men related show on there. It will be really stupid if they don't do that. Do you think we could see Old Man Steve? Yeah, I do. I do. I do think we will eventually see Old Man Steve. Yes, I very much so. I really don't. I don't doubt that at all. I don't think that that's I don't think that's something that's being swept away, so to speak. ASM says, "Watch it be no, comma more mutants." It would be cool though because if I would, it's actually fascinating if they did this. So if you take it as Quicksilver, if Quicksilver wakes up, when and if Quicksilver, the X-Men universe Quicksilver wakes up, if we're going to talk about it simply put, he wakes up and he tells Wanda that he's a mutant or something like that, and then Wanda now realizes mutants. I mean, they could have any moment where she does that and then says, and then that's her big step to breaking the multiverse, her saying more mutants, anything like that, whether it's Quicksilver or a meeting with her father, something like that. But there are many avenues that they could go with to get us mutants very easily. Just a few mutants as a treat. But yeah, I very much so believe that we're going to see mutants before we see X-Men, right? I 100% believe that we will see that. I don't have a doubt in my mind. I think that is inevitable. I really do. I think we're going to see the mutants. I think we're going to see mutant characters before we get to the X-Men. So I don't think it'll be that long. Because obviously, I know everybody says this. The X-Men films are very far away. And technically they are. Yeah, an X-Men theatrical film is far away. But I don't think mutants are. Oh, I like that, Dan. That's interesting. Dan says you could, Kevin Feige or, the Marvel Studios film could say that the OG5 are the agents from Krakoa keeping an eye on the world for the island. I like that. Ben Rafferty says Quicksilver, he wakes up and starts talking about Magneto. Yes. What about this mystery Ralph, Agnes's husband? He seems pretty mysterious and could play a key part, maybe. Yeah, I think Ralph is going to end up, again, I've talked about this often, so I'm sure it's getting to probably, not all that shocking. Ralph is either Mysterio. And again, this is where it goes about, potentially who he could be in terms of characters. Ralph is either Mysterio, Wonder Man, or Grim Reaper. I very strongly believe that. I really, really do. I very, very strongly believe that he is one of those three. I do not believe Ralph is empty misdirection. I think he is one of those three characters. The question is how they could potentially fit in. Because we know Agnes is Agatha. There is something major that goes on in episode 7, not this week. This week is episode 6, it's the Halloween episode. But when we go back around to episode 7, there is a major event that happens with Agnes because she takes the children. Okay? That's going to be a very, very big deal that sets the stage for a lot of people. And that's where everything really starts breaking down. Thoughts on a possible Magneto cameo? It's... I've said this in our previous live shows, and we were the first ones to break that rumor and that leak. Again, I'm going to put that. I put it. When we did that last month, I put that leak very much so in the wild rumor territory about a potential Ian McKellen appearance. I want it to be true, so I'm kind of looking for that kind of bias for any kind of treat, and I've explained in depth how I break it down, why I think it could be true, and what happens if it. No, I actually, Josh, no, only in the pre-show. I only talked about it with YouTube members about the episode 7 stuff. We can dive into that, absolutely. We can quickly. I'm totally cool diving into that. I did before we get too far off on WandaVision episode 7. I wanted to really quickly point this out. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier has been rated 16 plus by the Dutch Age Rating Board. That is Marvel Studios' first 16 plus production, because every other Marvel Studios production, everyone has been rated 12 plus. So Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be pretty intense. What costume do you think the MCU and Feige is going to adapt for them? I imagine it's going. I mean, a part of me wonders if it's going to be like the classic black and yellow, and if it is, I'm okay with that. But I really want it to be the Jim Lee costumes. I really want it to be those. I can't help it. Those are the X-Men that I know. Those are the X-Men that I really grew up with. I really want to see those costumes adapted properly. Will Wiccan and Speed grow up even more? Yeah, they're going to stop at about teenagers. Pretty much. I'm around the teenage spot before all this breaks down. But yeah, they have one more growth spurt that is planned. That is planned to happen, so to speak. But no. What was I talking about? All right, the before we get to the WandaVision leak, the rating. But yeah, I wanted to point that out because we've talked about it very often. I've talked about it on this channel for months. How Marvel doesn't always have to produce 4-quadrant films. Not everything has to be available to all. It doesn't have to be. Not everything has to be made to sell a toy. And to see them, especially to see that rating. Now we'll see how it translates into storytelling. We'll see how it translates narratively. But to see them actually get a higher rating is really, really exciting for me. I do think the government in this is, I've heard it as well. Even the showrunner said that they were going to tackle issues of racism. I really hope they do. I want Falcon and Winter Soldier to tackle that, and we touched on it earlier in the show. But I very much so believe that this show will deal with a very violent white supremacist group, and Falcon and Winter Soldier will have to deal with them. And I'm very, very excited to see that play out. And yes, Josh, we are ripe for the Young Avengers to finally enter the fray. That's, again, ASM. That's why I wanted to talk about ratings, because, Doctor Strange, Blade, Moon Knight, Daredevil. These are all characters that I really want to see have, if you go by 16 plus, anything that makes it, that gives it a chance for darker storytelling. And I think those properties deserve it. I really hope Doctor Strange 2 is actually horror. That it is really a horrific, creepy film. And I want it to go dark. I want it to be atmospheric. I want it to have, I still expect it to be PG-13. I do. Excuse me. I want it, I expect it to be PG-13, but it could be a hard PG-13. Like, it could be a frightening PG-13. And I hope that they push it. I really do. Because I'm really tired of seeing this stuff toned down. I really am. The comics go to a lot of places. The comics straight up go to some really dark places. The comics have dealt with white supremacy. The comics have dealt with the KKK. The comics have dealt with significant issues of race and political divide. It has dealt with really horrific scenes in the Doctor Strange comics. The movies need to go there. The movies really need to go there, and the shows do as well. And with Falcon and Winter Soldier having a higher rating, it leads me to believe that at the very least with Disney Plus, it really leaves me with Disney Plus that we could actually be getting there, that we could be getting to that point. Josh says, are they making Flag Smasher racist? Oh, I could. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, honestly, I really wouldn't. I would not doubt that at all. And I'm okay with it though. I'm really excited to see them do adaptations that really take it in a new direction, so to speak, right? In a new direction, and put it in and put the context of what's happening in this world in a different perspective and a little bit more real, a little bit more intense, and handle themes that are very much so at the forefront of of people's minds, so to speak, right? And I want to see it. I do. I want to see them go there. I might be, I really do, and I do not believe that I don't believe it like takes away from being a superhero story. I really don't, because they did it in the comics, and I've been reading about it in the comics for years. Like, to say that it's not superheroes if they deal with actual themes, I mean, you can pick up a comic and they've been doing it forever. Why do both the twins have brown hair? I I'm going to say they have brown hair because they haven't reached their final state yet. Like, they haven't got there yet. Now, it's possible that they won't go with the silver hair for Quicksilver. I hope that obviously Quicksilver had that speed, of course has. Maybe they don't go that route, but I really want them to. I really, really want them to. And I feel like it's just because we've been dealing with the kids, and like once they have their, I keep saying evolution, but it's all I can think of phrasing wise. But I think once we get to that where they're past that evolution, that we're going to see them all kind of finalize. Yeah, I'll be really disappointed. I'll be disappointed if Speed doesn't have his silver hair. So, before we wrap up, we're going to cover the episode 7 WandaVision leaks. We covered episode 6 previously. We talked about that, we talked about the information we had. Depth is a relative term here because we're working off loose information. We talked about episode 5 before episode 5 aired. Episode 5 played out exactly like the description we had. I expect episode 6 will as well. You can go check out that description in a previous episode, a previous live stream, rather. So, we have episode 7. Now, episode 7, again, things continue to fall apart, and it'll be very interesting. Obviously, I respect, and playing devil's advocate, I always want to preface this. I 100% respect if you want to put this in the wild rumors. I do. I respect that completely. That's why I don't headline it or really run a lot of, I try not to run a lot of bullshit. I try to, I respect that people want to call it rumor until they see it on screen. Absolutely. Now, for me, I'm putting this in the leak category because 5 was right, 6 is going to be right, and the 6 video, the video leak for episode 6 was accurate as well. So I'm pretty much on point with this. So I want to get all that out of the way. In episode 7, Darcy and Monica enter the world, and they are changed when they enter Wanda's reality. Vision is going to wake Darcy up. And when Vision wakes Darcy up, Darcy is going to explain to him what's been going on. She's going to explain that Wanda killed him, and Vision is going to react, wait, Wanda, why did Wanda do that? And Darcy's going to have to explain, well, no, you wanted her to. It was to, you were trying to save the world. You were trying to save humanity. And so Darcy's going to give him a reality check in episode 7, okay? Monica is going to go looking for Wanda. Unfortunately, Wanda, her children, Billy and Tommy, they're starting to act weird. And again, this is how it is in the description. This has been translated. Some phrasing might be off, but it literally says weird. I'm just going with what it says, okay? So they start acting weird. I assume their powers are opening up. I assume their powers are really starting to wake up, and that may be what he means. So Wanda leaves Billy and Tommy to be babysat by Agnes, okay? Wanda goes to deal with Monica. That's all it says on that. I have no idea what that means. I think something may have been lost in translation. Then Wanda comes back and finds that Agnes and the children are missing. Agnes has taken the children. Wanda goes to Agnes's house. She goes to investigate. Wanda goes into Agnes's basement and she finds a horrific scene. It is a witch's den. Agnes is revealed to be Agatha. That's it. That's where my description ends. That's what I have. Now, obviously, like I said on episode 5 and like I said on episode 6, we'll see how much of this ends up being true. But I'm going to give this guy credit. He reached out to me directly. His episode 5 description was 100% spot on. I'm going to give him credit. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It was spot on. I expect this week we're going to see episode 6. I expect his description on that will be accurate. I expect episode 7 is going to be accurate as well. That's what I mean with we have 8 and 9 left to introduce, potentially the big villain and a lot of other characters, and now Agatha has ran off with the twins. Again, as long as none's been lost in translation, because it is, I will admit, it's a little iffy. Episode 5 was a little iffy as well on the translation, but overall, it was all right. It's just, it translated into the wrong word here and there. Can you recap what was said on episode 6 as well quickly? Okay, so episode 6 of WandaVision. It is the Halloween episode. It is 100% the Halloween episode. Wanda and Vision, Quicksilver comes in. Wanda gets to know him. There's a bit of an argument between Wanda and Vision. Vision goes off on his own. Billy, I'm getting the kids' names mixed up. Wiccan, I'm just going to call him Wiccan. Wiccan starts having premonitions, and again, this is also based on the same guy from the same translations. I don't know if every word here is accurate or whatever, but there is Billy starts having like being a precog. He starts having some kind of crazy vision or something like that, and he ends up going. They end up telling him something's wrong with Dad. Where's Dad? Wanda freaks out. Something happens with Quicksilver. I think the translation's off, so I'm not going to comment on that because I think something's wrong in the translation, so I'm not going to. I didn't describe it then. I'm not going to describe it now. I'm leaving that out because I really think something got lost in translation, and I don't want to steer people wrong. That's not what this channel is. But Wanda and Quicksilver have a fight. That was revealed in the leak. That was confirmed. There is a fallout between Wanda and Quicksilver. Wanda realizes that Vision is leaving the bubble. Wanda expands the bubble, and things start going. Everything goes bad. Because Wanda's power starts getting out of control. She expands the bubble to keep Vision alive because when Vision steps out, he starts dying. That's me just going after, very quickly going over the episode 6 bullet points. I did dive into it far more in-depthly in a previous live show. With that, I want to thank everyone for your time. I am going to head off to have some lunch. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you for your time. I will be chilling in the YouTube membership chat if anybody wants to drop by and chat in the Discord. Absolutely. Beyond that, we will be live again tomorrow. We'll be going over it, and I do recommend checking out our previous live streams. I, of course, go over information as often as possible. I try to stay up on the leaks and spoilers as I receive them. I want to thank my YouTube members, as always, for their support, and I want to thank everyone else for dropping in with your questions, for engaging in the conversation, because again, this is all made possible by the fact that I have people to talk to, and I really, really appreciate being able to talk to all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time to comment and for being a part of the stream. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe.